and Harry and I have been joking about how we tend to celebrate our athletics, but we don't celebrate our academics enough. And we talk about Shaq, and we talk about Patrick Peterson, and we talk about Ben McDonald. But on the academic side, we'll be talking about Harry and Rosemary Wong for a while as well. So thank you very much. I want to be very brief, but I want to second what Bill Jenkins said this morning. There's never been a more important time, at least in my lifetime, for people to recommit and care about education at all levels. And most certainly, if we don't do the kind of job that needs to be done in pre-K through 12, then it makes little difference what we do at a place like this, because we simply will not be in a position to take people who are not ready on to the next stage in their life. For all of you who have participated today, on behalf of all of us who care about this state, the larger society, thank you for taking the time to invest in yourself for the sake of investing in others. That is a very special investment. It's not about spending a day. It's about making a difference, and you make a difference by getting to the point where you can absorb new information and pass it on in ways that transform the society we live in. So Bill was exactly right, and I agree with him entirely. It's especially important for me to thank Laura and the whole crew from our college. Well, we call it the College of Education. Now it's Human Sciences and Education. I can never keep track of all of it. It's a wonderful title, whatever the hell it is. But it speaks, and I'll tell you why. First of all, I want all of those of you who are here from the core part of education, pre-K through 12, to know that I don't believe that there are separations. This is a continuum. From the time that you're able to have cognitive activity until you die, it's continuing education, and we ought to never separate that. So we're your partners in this. We're your colleagues. We're not just the sponsors. We're in this together. And please know that we're proud to be part of the process of re-emphasizing that and establishing a team approach. I've lived in many places. People know if you look at my resume, I look like a migrant academic. Here's the one thing I have learned in the 4 years I've been at LSU. No state needs an education system to succeed more than Louisiana does. Now, the state is struggling, and Bill mentioned it this morning, and I deeply appreciate the Wongs and all of you being willing to try to turn the tide and make a difference, because if we don't do it now, my fear is it won't get done. And it's too important. The people that are being left behind are too important. The other thing I want to say to all of you at least I believe this, there's much being said about education reform and what it ought to be. This society won't change if we lay all of the burden on your backs. This is a much bigger problem. It's a social problem. And we need to tell people that. We've got to explain that it isn't necessarily the 62% of ninth graders who graduate from high school after being ninth graders. It's the 38% who don't. And in this state, as you probably know, we're 47th in adult literacy. Nearly 20%, nearly 1 in 5 of every citizen over 25 in the state of Louisiana cannot write, read, or do arithmetic at the 5th grade level. We've got a bigger problem, and you shouldn't be burdened with all of it. And I'll defend the great work you do and argue that there's a bigger agenda to be taken on by all of us as well. But it isn't the responsibilities, singularly, of the school systems to solve those problems. And unless we accept that, we won't solve them. So please know that the great work you do goes appreciated by all of us who understand it. And a lot of things that don't get done, who for whatever set of reasons get laid off in the education system, are simply wrong. And we've got to fix that. We've got to fix it in the minds of the public, we've got to fix it in the minds of the policymakers, and then we've got to fix it in the larger society. So please know that. Let me just tell those of you who aren't locally just a little bit of local lore, because I'm kind of a dilettante historian. You look out across a beautiful campus and the red tile roofs. The only thing you don't do is look deeply to the left at Kirby Smith. Because that is our monument to Soviet architecture. I think there's a picture of Nikita Khrushchev hanging in the hallway. It's a beautiful campus that was established officially in 1926. I'm going to get to a point here in just a moment. The place we're standing next to, which is the old stadium, was established by Huey Long. And one of the things that happened is in about 1930, the then Association of State Colleges labeled LSU at the time a third-rate university. It was actually published. And Huey Long, in the middle of the Depression, decided that that was unacceptable. And whatever else you think of Huey Long, I will tell you this. He decided that wasn't going to last. And over a 6-year period of time, the state of Louisiana, during the depths of this, one of the worst depressions in the history of this country, turned this campus around and turned it into what it has now become today, a major flagship. And this very building we're standing in, some of you know this story. He wanted a football stadium, and the legislature wouldn't support his football stadium. So he built a round dormitory with a field in the middle. And that's what's out there. That's exactly, look out there, that's exactly right. And my point is this, whenever you think of all of the things Huey Long did, great leaders figure out a way. They figure out how to get it done. And finally, let me say, this is a special year for many of us who have labored in this for a long time. This is the 150th anniversary of the land-grant universities. Louisiana State is one of 57 of our kind, established in an act of 1862 in the depth of the Civil War, in a time of great conflict, when the country was literally bankrupt. 3 people took an idea that had been passed on to them, a guy named Benjamin Wade from Ohio, Justin Smith Morrill from Vermont, and Abraham Lincoln, and they came up with a way to create one of the greatest innovations in the history of higher education, not just in America, worldwide, because people admire the land grants. They figured out a way to fund a group of now 57 institutions. This one became a land grant, and Fernberg was there, 1874. Actually helped draft the language, but then Governor Kellogg took it to the federal government and made this a land grant. That's supposed to be the people's university, accessible to all who qualify, that does research and experimentation in the public interest, that takes the university to the people where they live. That's the legacy and the tradition of a great land grant. And in 1862, when conditions couldn't have been worse, leaders led and made a difference. And it's time that we all take responsibility to lead and demand of others to lead as well. And I'm glad you're here to do that. And we're proud to have you on campus. And enjoy a great campus. And look out over the dormitory that now seats 92,000. And in 3 years we'll seat 100 and slightly short of 101,000 as we fill in the south end zone. We care a lot about sports, but we better care a lot about academics. And so we've got 2 superheroes here, and I want to finally say to Harry, congratulations. I have learned he will be inducted into the Education Hall of Fame in Kansas.
National Teachers Hall of Fame.
National Teachers Hall of Fame. Those Longs, and they are the Shaquille O'Neals. Shorter. I think my guess is combined. Well, we've got 2 and there's only one of them. So thank you all very much. Go Tigers.